Welcome to the Spaghetti Wall podcast, where we dive into life.
Both the messy parts and the moments of joy, and everything in between. I'm Jason Wilcox, licensed clinical social worker.
And I'm Dr. Tanay Lee, a licensed clinical psychologist.
Valentine's Day is just around the corner, Jason. I'm wondering what we're going to be doing because, it's really important that you shower me with love on Valentine's Day, or else I'm going to be so upset.
Wait, I thought it was the other way around. I thought you were the one that's supposed to figure it out this Valentine's Day, and I get to be upset if you don't figure it out.
No way. I did it last year for us, so this year it's on you.
Yeah, but I thought you were supposed to do it for the next decade.
Oh,
and then I take over the
geez.
decade after that.
I totally want a divorce now.
Okay.
So this is I think a big topic for some couples, as well as how Valentine's Day can cause some conflict between couples because of resentment or expectations that were not expressed, shared, or made explicit.
Yeah, I think this actually goes to not only Valentine's Day, it goes to birthdays, it can go to Christmas.
Oh, anniversaries.
Anniversaries. It happens with a lot of things, but yeah, Valentine's Day, people have these big expectations on their partners, and if they're not met, then fight's on.
Right. So we were just joking around. We actually don't do anything for Valentine's Day, and that's something that I think Jason and I agreed on.
Yeah, early on, we don't really care for Valentine's Day, but that's just our opinion. Our way of life doesn't mean that you have to feel that way, but we'd prefer to show our love all the other days of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And Valentine's Day, we normally don't do a lot, might go hang out, but we don't celebrate it in the sense most people do. But I do understand those that like to celebrate it. They see the purpose of celebrating love and making it about love that day. So I understand it. The problem comes into play with the word that you said, Tan, expectations.
I do feel that for couples who are all busy and maybe not reading this book called 25 Habits, Mindfulness Habits in Relationships, and it talks about how we become complacent and we stop being curious about our partners and stop connecting and engaging in that way. And I totally can see how when life gets so busy, we do forget about these connection moments. And so a day like Valentine's Day or our anniversary or a couple's getaway, it feels really nice because we are told to dedicate this time, this day, to remind our partners how much we love them. So I also get that point.
Yeah, it's a day to focus on it.
Mm-hmm. I think the issue comes when it's not made explicit that, hey, babe, I really want us to do something for Valentine's Day or our anniversary. It's going to mean the world to me if we set aside time or you surprise me with something nice.
Yeah, so explicit versus implicit is really critical here, making sure that you are inviting your partner to whatever it is that you're wanting. But remember, this is an invitation, not an expectation.
Mm-hmm. So it's not like if you don't do this, then I'm going to feel unloved. And we talked about this in previous podcasts where we talk about not making the thing that's not happening, meaning your partner doesn't care or love you.
Right. That becomes a problem anytime we attach those two things together, because someone can love you dearly and totally be stressed in life, tired, exhausted, overtasked, and forget Valentine's Day and still love you dearly.
Right. And we talked about how this becomes very conditional and transactional and may not feel good for some people. And they may unconsciously, not intentionally, have resistance to days like Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because of the expectations start getting put on their shoulders, so it feels almost resentful that they have to perform a certain way only for their partner to feel loved,
Mm-hmm.
or for them to feel connected or happy with them.
Mm-hmm. So how are some ways that people can navigate either expectations or unmet needs outside of Valentine's Day, Jason?
Well, outside of Valentine's Day, I mean, all of it comes down to communication, expectations, and hearing each other and finding ways to connect. Like you brought it up at the beginning of this episode of how you and I talked about this early on about Valentine's Day. We talked about what we do or don't like. This would be important. If we both liked Valentine's Day, we would have come up with a different solution. We would have found, what do we want to do? How do we want to do it? What do we like? If we wanted something big, well, then we would figure out how to make it big. But even if we wanted something big, we would have to plan together and figure it out as we get closer. If we wanted something minor, we would figure that out and talk about it. But one of the key pieces is that if you're going to do something, whether on Valentine's Day, outside of Valentine's Day, it's communication and figuring out, what do you guys like? How do you want to connect? What do you want to do?
Jason, do you remember what I told you about flowers when we first met?
Yes, I loved it. You said that you are not a cut flower person.
Yeah, I said I do not like receiving cut flowers. If you're going to buy me flowers, Jason, please make sure they're alive and something I can put in the ground or like keep in a pot.
Yes, and made my heart skip a beat because I had come from a previous marriage where it was the expectation that cut flowers have to be bought because that was the way that love is shown. And I wasn't always perfect at that. So obviously I failed at love in that relationship because cut flowers weren't always bought. So it was so nice that you didn't put that condition on it.
Right.
Or desire it.
And so I think it's also empathizing and also hearing out that, like, for example, if you and I did not see eye to eye about cut flowers, what is the meaning in here? And can you guys work through that if I really do want cut flowers and you're like, that's a waste of money. Why would I want to buy it? I don't think about buying it for you. How would a couple coming to you with that grievance, how would you support them through that if one couple is wanting cut flower, one partner, and then the other said, no, I don't care for buying those for you? How would they navigate that?
Well, it's multifactored. It's not just one answer to navigate it. Because first and foremost, as you've heard me in other podcasts, I always look for the negative core belief first. Because the negative core belief creates the reactivity in that situation. Because they tie the negative core belief around the behavior that, hey, this person doesn't do this behavior, therefore whatever the negative core belief of I'm unlovable or they don't love me comes into play. And so that's first and foremost. You got to get those things out of there so you can see things clearly.
Yeah, I think the most common negative core belief I hear from folks in this situation is, you don't ever think about me.
Which would be the byproduct of the negative core belief, because the negative core belief would be,
I'm not important.
right, something like,
I'm invisible, I'm unseen.
Mm-mm.
You don't think about me. I'm not
Right.
considered. I'm insignificant.
Right.
Ooh, those.
Yeah.
Deep.
Right. Could be one of those things causing those thoughts and those feelings, and then it gets projected on the partner because they didn't do this behavior. So that's always first thing with the scenario you brought up. Second thing, though, is if you get the negative core beliefs cleared out, it's not going to hurt anymore if something happens or doesn't happen. So that's going to be gone. But now we can talk about preferences. So someone can say, hey, I really enjoy when cut flowers are bought for me. It's not expectational, it's invitational. It's talking about a preference. And if the other person can get behind it, agree to it, hear the other person and do those things, that's wonderful. And at the same time, there might be other ways that you can engage that maybe this one might go a different direction or something. For example, like one time you and I chatted about working in the garden. I built you a garden. It's beautiful. I love seeing you in it. I love seeing you work in it. I love seeing the garden that you produce. But you told me one time, I'd love for you to come work in the garden with me. That was a preference of yours. It was invitational. I appreciated it was invitational. And I looked at you and said, I grew up on farms. I grew up working in gardens, and I don't want to work in a garden. Like, I don't like working in the garden. I'll build them. I love building them, but I don't like working in it.
Yeah, and I felt this sickness in my gut when you said it, but I just was aware, like, oh, that's something I have to accept and make space for. And it didn't mean you didn't love me.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It just meant that was something I experience inside and the way I experience it and want to conduct and live my life.
I would add that I think it was an easier pill to swallow to hear you say things like that to me, because there are other ways that we make time for each other.
Exactly.
Where I'm not feeling like there's a deprivation of connection between us. And I work more with individuals. So coming from a individual framework, the thing that we talk about in session is, how do you meet those needs yourself. Like cut out the middleman. Okay, so if your partner's too busy to provide this, can you do it for yourself? And what would that mean? So like I would encourage, what would it feel like to order yourself your own bouquet if that's what you're wanting, right? And what would it feel like to work on I am enough internally so that it doesn't sting or we're not putting that on other people? The podcast that we talked about that like your partner's not responsible to make you happy. You are responsible for your own feelings and taking care of what you're needing. And the reality is there is a hard pill to swallow that some people can't meet us halfway. Some people can't show up even if we can make the request. So it is about doing things without the expectation and being okay to practice verbalizing your needs without the other person changing or meeting you halfway and being okay with that. Because usually the work that I do with my folks is it's about healing that part of you that made yourself small because you believe you were not good enough. And so days like your birthday, Valentine's Day, anniversary, even Christmas, whatever the special occasion is, we put so much on it to be seen and to validate and to fight that negative belief.
Mm-hmm.
And when those things don't happen, it crushes us.
But I want to be really clear if it's not making sense for our audience. It's crushing you because of the negative core belief.
Yes.
Like this is a critical piece for people to understand, that the crushing feeling inside is not because of your partner. It is literally the negative core belief inside that's filtering what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So like the garden thing, you said something, you added on there. One of the reasons why it wasn't like, oh, so crushing, wasn't outside of the negative core belief is the fact that we also show up for each other many other ways. So I think this is a side of this that if our audience is like, well, yeah, but what if my partner never shows up? That's important because the thing is whether it's Valentine's Day that you guys enjoy together or something else, it is important to show up for each other. It is important to figure out how do you both enjoy and find ways to connect, because connection's really critical in relationships. So if it's not Valentine's Day, what else could it be? So if there's one thing that you both, that you're at odds about, like we were about the garden, or if you are about Valentine's Day, then change the conversation to where can you connect? What are things that you both enjoy? What are both things that you both are successful at in relationships that will feel good to connect with each other? That's where it's really important.
And full disclosure, like I worked on myself. I went to therapy. I was psychoanalyzed for 3 years to help me feel good enough. I internally worked on that myself, my negative core beliefs. And so when I entered our marriage and our relationship, I felt grounded. I was not seeking you to feel that for me too. So I think that's another piece that I want to share with the audience is that, yeah, I went to therapy. I did the work. I struggled with things like, am I worthy? Am I good enough? Right. And so I think that's another component. If you're realizing that in every relationship that you have, whether that's with a friend or your child or your parents or your job or your romantic partner, if this is reoccurring, that's something I would encourage folks to think about seeking support in.
Agreed. But it goes both ways, right? Like, example on my side, I love rock hounding. I love looking for rocks. And I know you do too, but there's a lot of times I want to go and you don't want to go. If I had a filter here that I'm not good enough, unlovable, not important, it would hurt, it would sting that you don't go with me. But I don't have that. So it's oh, I'm going to miss you, but I'll show you the rocks I find when I get back. And I'm out.
Yeah. And I think the way we communicate, Jason, is that I also don't feel anything negative on my end when you go do those things and I decide I don't want to join. Mm-hmm. But I know there's some couples who would say, hey, yeah, you can't, you won't believe what my partner said to me. They're like, oh, you're going to go do that again? Oh, that's such a waste of time. And so when we add certain types of judgment or contempt for our partners, that's when, it's things start to sting. So when it comes to like planning an anniversary dinner or going on vacation or spending time together, if it's not enjoyable, they can hear it in your tone when you're like, oh, do I really have to plan it? Or, oh, this again, you're bringing this up again. So I think it's also the way people repress their feelings and not be genuine and honest and communicate in a nonviolent way and a gentle, kind way to go like, honey, this is really not for me. What other things can I do to show you I do love you, but not in this way that I don't like doing?
Yes. So what you said there, I feel like is a little bit complex, right? Because again, if you have a negative core belief and you're telling someone to, if you need someone to show them that you love them and it's due to the filter, the negative core belief that's inside, it'll never happen. You're like throwing something down a dark abyss because you can't force someone else to feel your love if the filter says I'm unlovable. So it's important to understand the difference of if they're in a reactionary state saying, I need you to show me this way that you love me, and it's from a negative core belief, it's not going to go very far. Versus if it's just, which we all love to feel loved in our relationships. So this is why it's a little tricky on what I'm saying here, is if it's not fueled by the negative core belief, if it's just, hey, I love being connected and I love feeling loved this way, and inviting someone to say, hey, I'd love for you to do this, or you telling your partner, hey, what are ways that are enjoyable for you? That's great, because what you're doing is you're creating the connection, but it's not trying to fight the negative core belief for the person.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. There are statements where I tell my clients that if you choose that route, your partner will always fail you. And so, yes, great point, Jason. I was thinking about more about the individual. I think maybe I was talking about like limitations and boundaries, right? Like knowing that this is what my limit is and my boundary is, and holding that without the need to people please or what's that, pacify your partner.
Yes.
Right. And then that's going to build resentment, because if you really don't want to work in the garden with me, but somehow I get you to, quote unquote, get you to, then there will be a sense of, oh, I'm just doing it because, I'm people pleasing my wife, or I'm pacifying Tan so that in this moment, I'm taking care of her and making her feel good about herself. And that's usually not a route that is sustainable for partners.
No, and can build resentment. But you did make me think of something that's a bit of a side topic, is the idea that when your partner wants to do something like that with you, to appreciate what they're doing. So for me, like doing gardening, like it hits so deep inside of me on such a intense level that I detest it so much. I would not like it, period, end of story, doing gardening. However, there are other things. Like I'm not an extrovert. I'm really an introvert, and I like more very individual things. I don't like big groups, but you like concerts sometimes, Tan. And you like doing things that are a little bit more with groups.
Yes, I'm an extrovert.
Yes. That's not me. I don't like those things. That's not something I would choose to do. And at the same time, I love seeing the excitement you have at those, that if you go, hey, I want to go do this, and I say, yeah, let's go. You've brought up at times before, you're like, but I know you don't like concerts. And it's like, yeah, I don't like concerts. I don't like the big groups, but I love seeing your excitement, and I love seeing the enjoyment that you get at it, that I want to be there. And so that's different to understand that, yeah, there are going to be things that's like, yeah, I don't want it at all. It's just that much I dislike it. But then there's other things that's like, yeah, there are things I dislike about it, but there's things I love about it, so I want to do it.
Mm-hmm. And that's a thing that I want to call into this conversation too, Jason, is that the decision to make the choice for your partner, because in the past they've shown disdain for something. And I would say I'm so guilty of that because I'm trying to like be mindful about what you've told me you like and not like. And sometimes I'll make a decision not to invite you or not to involve you in it. And that can also deteriorate the connection because you've told me several times, like, oh, but just ask, don't make the decision for me. Like, if I feel like going, I might go. And again, I may not like the activity, but I love being with you. So please don't make the decision for me. So I would actually call that in. If you are guilty, like me, of knowing your partner don't like something, prefer not to do something, I encourage you to do what Jason has encouraged me to do, which is just check in and say, hey, this thing is happening and I really want to go. Would you want to go with me? In the past, so many times I just go, oh, let me just find a friend to go with, or maybe I'll go with the kids, or maybe I'll just take little Gavin, or maybe I just go by myself. And many times Jason would say, hey, I wish you would have just like asked me if I wanted to go with you. So
Which brings us back to our topic of Valentine's Day.
yeah, we kind of went into the weeds there.
Yeah, Valentine's Day, what we're talking about again is invitational things versus expectational things. Valentine's Day normally goes south because someone puts an expectation on someone else, and they either did it in an implicit way where they didn't tell them exactly what they wanted, or they did it in a way that the other person didn't ever quite meet the expectation, so they're upset. So if you want a really enjoyable Valentine's Day and it's something you like celebrating, the things that you'd want to do is first make sure what you would desire on Valentine's Day is completely clear to your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, understanding that that is an invitation to your partner. If you make it expectational, it's not going to go well.
Yes. And thirdly, don't make it a test. Don't go, I'm going to make sure he remembers or she remembers all these things I've told them in the past. And let me just sit and wait and test my partner and my spouse to see if they'll remember and, meet my expectation. That is pretty unfair.
Yeah.
And I would say, no, don't do that. If you've ever done that before, stop it.
Yeah. Because at the bottom of it, right, and Valentine's Day is supposed to be a day of love and connection. There's a lot of ways to connect. It doesn't have to be big money, big flowers, big items, big events. It can just be with each other.
Yeah. And sometimes life and people's brains don't operate the same as yours. So if they forget, if they're not planning for it, they connect, invite. Lead with your values and what's important to you instead of leading with the expectation or obligation or the testing behavior.
Yes. And it's interesting, something you said a second ago. I've heard this one in lots of times in couples counseling where they'll say something like, yeah, but they should have remembered.
Mm-hmm. Here's that
They should have known. They probably did remember and didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all
Or
those
how
things.
many times do I have to tell this person?
Yeah.
It's like, you're probably going to... And I love that at the beginning of our relationship, Jason, you said, I'll probably forget and you'll probably have to tell me again. Or like, this isn't the first time and it won't be the last time. And so that is the reality of being human.
Yes. I can't control what my brain does and doesn't remember. I can try to do things to make it stick, but my brain's got a lot of things going in it every single day. So
Yes. And when I became a parent, like reminders and being used to reminding people and being gentle with that and knowing that people just do need reminders, whether they're kids or adults, that was a big shift in my mindset and my ability to have empathy for my partner, for my kids, and to allow myself that grace to
yeah.
be okay with, I might need to remind this person again.
And vice versa, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I give you reminders, it's okay.
Yeah.
Totally human.
Yes.
Well, hopefully this is helpful for you to have a successful Valentine's Day. Remember, it's about connection. So if you're holding someone to an expectation and getting upset about that expectation not being met, Valentine's Day isn't going to be about connection anymore anyways.
Yeah. And if you can identify your negative core beliefs and it's something you aren't able to shake on your own or through just like self-help, reach out to a therapist.
Thanks for listening to us today and hearing what we had to bring up. Hopefully this is helpful. If you have topics you want us to talk about, please throw them in the comments. We'll always take a look at those. Happy to talk about them and reach out that way with questions, things like that. Also, feel free to find us on our social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, those places, so that you can check out other content we post.
Yeah, and if you feel like a friend or someone close to you might benefit from hearing some of these things, please share the podcast with them.